Hello and welcome to another video. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Today, something a little bit different. I've had a couple of questions about my settings in Warzone. As you might or might not know if you've seen any of my other videos, I'm a bit of a self-confessed tech geek and computer geek type, I guess. I'm not great at Warzone, I'm not a pro by any stretch. My KD's not even that great. I just play a lot and I research a lot of this stuff. I watch a ton of content about this stuff. So I've done a shit ton of trial and error on different types of settings. So today, I'm just going to run you through the settings that I use on my PC to get the best out of Warzone, in my opinion. This is completely subjective and you can change these, tweak them however you please. This is just a guideline that might help a couple of people. I do play on controller. You can see a link above for a review I did on the controller I use, which is the Razer Wolverine Ultimate. Go have a look at that. That was actually where I got the idea for this video, where a couple of people had asked for the settings that I use. If you're interested in the Wolverine Ultimate button layout and what I use, then I can run through that in a separate video. If that would be of interest, leave a comment. I will point out that some of these settings are available on console and some of them are not. Most of them have been put into the consoles on most recent updates. All aside from field of view, the majority of the rest are there, but field of view is not yet. I do believe it is in Cold War, but not in this. Don't forget to click the subscribe button, helps me a ton, but I won't waste any time today. Let's just get straight into it. So, keyboard and mouse, I don't use keyboard and mouse, so I'll leave that as is. As you might know, I have tried to use it in the past, but it is just not for me. My sausage fingers do not like the keys on a keyboard. So I have my field of view set to 113.04. It's just an arbitrary number. I just don't like it quite at the 120, which it goes all the way up to. It feels too wide for me and I get a bit distracted now that I'm gaming at 1440. I've got so much real estate on the screen that I can see too much either side. Not for me. So 113 is what I go at. That one is a subjective one. In the advanced, do have the ADS field of view down to affected. It helps you with your aim assist and you will thank me for it later if you are using controller. There are other videos that you can find on YouTube that explain why this helps, but I will not go into detail on it on this, just please have that to affected. The brightness I have at 70.4, no reason, it's just so that on this monitor it's how it looks best. The HUD display bounds, 29.42, again that was down to preference. Vertical, 30.04, it just means that stuff is on the screen and you can see it and it isn't way out on the edge. I play on colorblind type Deuteranopia. There's a few others here, Protonopia, Tritonopia. I think that for streaming and for the general niceness looking of the game, it just makes it look really nice. There's what you can see at the normal one, which is on it disabled, and it just makes the blues pop, the oranges pop, makes it look a bit nicer. For me, that's just what I like to use. It gets a lot of use from streamers, which you might see if you are streaming about on Facebook or on YouTube. You'll see that a lot of people do use this just because it is a nice color palette. Minimap shape, square. Please, for God's sake, if you have this set to round, please put it to square. You're mugging yourself off. Imagine a circle, you get this much room. If you add on corners to it, you get more room on your minimap. Change it to square. If you're running it as round, what are you up to? Change it to square. The rotation, down to preference. I like it to move. Texture, profanity, none of this I'm guessing would be interested to you. I have my FPS counter enabled in case I can see if things are dropping out for whatever reason. I can see that in real time, go away and fix it. Maybe lie down somewhere and fix it, I guess. I have all the rest off apart from the GPU temp just so I can keep an eye on that. Sometimes I like to see it in game if I'm really pushing the settings. Just a nice thing to know. Okay, so now the one that you're most interested in is graphics, I would guess. Anyway, so display mode, I have it at full screen borderless. My display monitor is the main one, which is the Samsung C32 JGX5 5X, which I'll link up here. You can have a look. This is the one that I use. It's a 144Hz 1440 monitor display. You can have a watch of that video. Then the display adapter, obviously the one that you're using, which is your GPU. Render resolution. This is if you want to upscale or want to downscale. Quite useful if you're really struggling. You maybe have an older PC and you're running at 1080 or something and you want to try and squeeze it down a bit. You will notice a massive difference as you start to squeeze this down. But yeah, I'll leave it at 80 or 90 sometimes, just depending on what my frames are looking like, what I've got running in the background if I'm streaming. I will sometimes bring this down slightly if I am streaming. Aspect ratio, I'll leave this at automatic, just to let it do its thing really. VSync, this monitor I have doesn't have VSync, and even if it does, I just want to have it at a custom frame rate limit anyway. So I've got my gameplay custom frame rate limit set to 144. The screen refresh rate is 144. I don't want any screen tearing, and I know that my PC can output much more than that, so I have it to 144, and that I would just recommend setting that to the refresh rate of your monitor. It's just the best and most stable way to work that. In the menu I have it at 60, no need to have it any higher, not doing anything fancy in the menu really. And the out of focus frame rate limit, I just want everything running at the same frames, whether it's out of focus or in focus. For me, I just like it, it gives it the smoothest look for me. NVIDIA highlights I have enabled because I like to screen clip stuff for recordings and for montages, which will be coming out pretty damn soon. The low latency, I have this enabled, which just optimizes system latency. Display gamma, I have this to 2.2 sRGB, which is just the one you have for monitors. The other one that you can use is usually used for a TV. Now, details and textures. This is basically basically what you can get away with in a bit of trial and error. I'm running 2070 Super and AMD 3900X, okay? And this spits me out roughly about 130 to 144 frames when I am doing anything in Warzone. So this is what I have. So texture resolution, I have that up at high. I like my games to look good in the texture resolution. Now, this is the one that does make the biggest difference to your VRAM usage. So if you really are struggling, you can drop it, but I think it starts to look really shit anywhere below medium, or normal in this case. The texture filter anisotropic, I have this to normal. It doesn't really make a huge difference between normal and high from everything I've looked at, so I have that in normal. Particle quality, low. I see no reason when I'm playing competitively to have this high up. I just have this at low. Bullet impacts and sprays. Now, interestingly, if you turn this off, it turns off the spray paint. So people were spray painting and I couldn't see it, and I wondered why. That might work in your favor if you are super competitive. It's nice to have off. The bullet sprays I couldn't give two flying fucks about, but the spray paint I kind of do. Some people get spray paint in the gulag and you want to see that. Maybe you want people can spray paint like characters at the top of buildings or whatever. Cool. That is just a little tip for that. Tessellation, I have this to all. You can have that in near, far, near or all, and I have that all for when sniping. Things will render a little bit quicker and smoother. On-demand texture streaming, I have no reason to have this enabled. I haven't seen it make a difference. Every streamer or anyone I have watched this say to have this to disabled, so I have it to disabled. Shadow map resolution, I have this down to normal. The difference between high and normal is negligible, so I leave this at normal. Cache spot shadows disabled. This just means that the spot shadows aren't stored in the cache. Makes no difference. Cache sand shadows exactly the same. Particle lighting, I have this to normal. For competitive, it makes no difference. This is just a nice to have feature. You can turn this on if you want. DirectX ray tracing, biggest one, I have it off. Competitively, I see no need for it. It doesn't give you an advantage. It will just squeeze the frames out your PC, and that's it. I have ambient occlusion set to static objects only. This just creates depth between the light and the shadows in everything that you have. So I have this to static objects only. Screen space reflections, I have it to low. No real reason. The difference between low and normal is nothing. I don't really need that to be anywhere where it is when you're just looking for reflections. Anti-aliasing, I have this full up to filmic SMA T2X, but some people do keep it just to the normal SMA T2X. I don't see a huge amount of difference in frames or performance when you leave that, so I like to have that at the highest. Depth of field, preference one, I have this disabled just because I don't like the sides blurred out. I like to be able to, if I'm aiming down sight and somebody moves, I want to see it. I don't want that to be blurred. Filmic strength, 0, again, preference. World motion blur, turn this off, have it to disabled. It's a piece of shit and you don't need it. Weapon motion blur, exactly the same. You're not playing a film, you're playing competitively in a game, so have this disabled. And film grain is 0. So for the controller, just a couple of things really here. I won't go into a huge amount of detail on this. If you would be interested in more detail on this, please let me know. But I run my stick sensitivity at 14 for horizontal and 10 for vertical. This is completely preference. I think it's easier to replicate mouse and keyboard movement if you have that higher, if you can control it. So you can practice with that. There's things you can use to practice your aim, private matches, whatever, multiplayer. But yeah, I'd recommend getting this as high as you can manage, but low enough so that you're not flying about the place and missing your shots. ADS sensitivity multiplier, low zoom 0.54, high zoom 0.50. Roughly the same. There's just a way that I have tested and tested and tested and tested and tested and tested and tested, and it's the best thing that seems to work for me. Deadzone I have at 0.12. Best way to do this one is to put it to 0, see if it moves, see if anything moves, then go into private match, see if anything moves, put the Deadzone up by 0.1. If it still moves, put it up by 0.1. If it moves, put it up by 0.1, and then get it as low as possible, and that means you'll get the best bang for your buck in your dead zone. Aim response curve, I have it to standard, controller vibration disabled, and there are a few other sets of details here that I have, but they're less about the performance base and the settings for it. Aim assist, I have this to standard. I've tried all three. Standard seems to be the best for the controller working that way. Scale aim assist with FOV, no, I have this to disabled. Everything that I've watched, every YouTube video that I've looked at says keep this to disabled. It helps the aim assist work and do its thing. What else is useful? Everything else is extreme preference, I think. Yeah, everything else seems to be preference. So yeah, that is my settings for Warzone. I hope you get something from this. As I say, all of these are completely subjective. It's just the way I like to play, based on a lot of the research and knowledge that I have on the game. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm wrong in any of this stuff, or if any of it has helped you. And as always, don't forget to click the subscribe button, like, leave a comment, and if you do enjoy my content, let me know. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know. If you're interested in more of my settings, or my skins, or my setups, shout up. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you in the next video.